Hey friends, I'm back with another process video, and this time I've got a mini album for you. I'm making a Memorydex style mini, so right now I'm just working on the box that's going to hold my Memorydex cards. And I used a tutorial by Amber Mitchell, aka Bambi Deer. So if you're interested in the specific dimensions and instructions for this box, check out her video. I've left a link in the description box, so go check it out, give her channel some love. She's got so many amazing mini albums, including this one that I'm making here. So I'm just cutting out some squares after scoring and cutting my paper. And these little tabs that I'm cutting will help assemble the box. So I've cut all those tabs, and next I'm going to come in with some sticky double-sided tape on each of those 4 tabs, and that's going to hold my box together. So I'm just flattening them out with my scoring tool, making sure that tape really sticks on there. And peeling off the back side always takes forever, but it's worth it to make sure it stays in place. So it's worth the time it takes to peel off all those backing pieces. So I'm just putting the box together, and then these top flaps will eventually fold over like I'm doing here, and that will create my base for my mini album. Next, I need holes for the Memorydex to fit in. So I used a basic cut file that I found on Silhouette Design Store, and I will leave a link to that as well, and that's the cut file I used for the base of all of my Memorydex cards. And so I've traced the holes, and now I'm punching them out, and I'm going to use that little piece of paper as a template to know where to mark my holes where the sticks are going to go. And I just used little lollipop sticks that are used for cake pops or whatever. And I've punched all my holes on the sides there. And now I'm going to use more double-sided tape to stick the tabs down. And eventually, I don't show this on camera, but I do add those lollipop sticks into those and just insert them into those holes. So next I'm going to make my cover page, or title page. And I've cut this scallop on this pretty pink paper. I'm using the Let's Create collection from Echo Park, which is so cute. It's got lots of crafty and sewing themed things. And this is going to be a sewing themed mini album, so it's perfect. And because I'm doing a sewing themed mini album, I want to add lots of hand stitching details. And I debated whether I was brave enough to poke those holes, but I decided I was. So I'm poking holes about somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going all around the edge, and I'm going to use all 6 strands of some white embroidery floss and a back stitch to create just a ring all around the pink circle here. Just doing a back stitch, so to start I'm coming up one hole, down the next hole, and then for every other stitch I'm going to come up the next hole, if I can get my needle through there, and back down the previous hole. I'm going to do that all the way around the edge. So again, I'm going up through the next hole and down through the previous hole. And if you would like some tutorials on different hand stitching, leave a comment below and I will make some tutorials on how to do specific stitches for stitching on paper. So I decided that before I kept stitching, I wanted to attach this scallop circle to my base just so that it can be stitched in place and stay in place permanently. So I have to re-poke some holes into my Memorydex base, and then I can keep on stitching. And like I said, those stitching threads are going to make sure that the scallop circle stays on that Memorydex base. So I'm just finishing up. I'm going to tie a knot by running my needle through that hole a couple times, that loop in the thread. Pull it tight and cut off my extra thread, and there's the finished base for my cover. I love how those hand stitching details turned out. So these are the cardstock stickers from Let's Create, and I end up substituting this pink flower for a fussy cut flower from one of the papers. But at least for now, I think that I want to use this flower. So next I'm going to come on with my title, and I'm just using some random alphas from my stash. I start out saying "so happy." I eventually change it to "so much fun" with the much in the gold stickers and "so" and "fun" in the white thickers. Just because I felt like those 3 words filled up the space on the circle a little bit better. I felt like there was a little too much empty space with the "so happy." So next I'm coming in with a cut apart card. and just making sure that it's going to fit on my base. I've got a green scallop piece that's going to act as a frame, and then I'm going to mat the 3x4 card on some yellow paper just to add another pop of color. I'm distressing the edges just to give it a little more texture. And I'm not going to attach the 3x4 card quite yet because I want to make a flip up, but I do add a sewing machine sticker. It's the same icon as what's already printed on the card, but I wanted to make it more three-dimensional, so I added some foam to that sticker and attached it right over the printed icon. So I'm going to attach the scallop to my Memorydex base, and I am going to come back later and make that flip up. So I thought about using this journaling card as a base for another Memorydex, but I decided to switch to this cut file instead. I ended up putting that cut apart card into an envelope later. And even though it's crazy, I decided to back this teeny tiny cut file of a sewing machine. And I don't remember where this cut file came from. I think it might just be one of the files on Cricut Access, but I'm not entirely certain. I might accidentally be lying to you about that. So I can look it up if you're interested. Just let me know, and I will get back to you on that. So I'm going to use this pink paper as my base, but first I want to back all those teeny tiny flowers at the top of the machine, which took some time because these are pretty small pieces and it's a pretty tiny cut file, but I think it was worth it in the end, even though it took kind of a long time. So I'm just tracing, gluing, and I'm almost done here. I got all my flowers backed, and so next I'm adding glue all around the machine, and I'm going to put on my pink base. Now I do have to do some reconstructive surgery because I cut it a little too small around the corner there. So I'm going to add a little corner of pink paper to hide that, and in the end it's not really noticeable. So there's the finished cut file. I think the backed flowers and buttons and knobs turned out so cute. And I'm going to attach it to my Memorydex base here, which is just white cardstock. It's nothing fancy, just textured cardstock. And again, I will link below the cut file that I used for my Memorydex bases. So I am going to eventually turn this into a pocket with this pink paper right here. I'm going to bring back that green scallop frame to use as a template. So I thought having just a straight border on top would be kind of boring, so I traced that scallop edge. I'm going to cut it out, and I think that'll make a cute little pocket peeking out the top of my sewing machine. I'm almost done trimming this here, and I didn't like how the green was showing off the top, so I'm going to trim the back a little bit so that all you see is the scallop edge. And then I'm going to sew down either side of that paper to create a little pocket. Just making sure it'll fit in my box, and I totally have it turned the wrong way, but I figure it out eventually. So we're going to take a break from the sewing machine, play around a little bit with this pin cushion, but we'll get back to that later. For now, we're going to back another cut file. This one is a spool of thread. And we're going to use some really light gray to back the top and bottom of the spool of thread. And I'm going to come in later with some glue for the actual thread part of the spool. So I'm just, again, tracing, cutting, and gluing. Just your standard way of backing a cut file. There's lots of ways to do it, but this is my favorite. It's the one that I do most often. So next I'm going to come in with that blue piece. It's kind of hard to get glue on all those tiny spaces, but if you have a fine liner bottle, it really helps. So there's my base, there's my spool of thread, and I'm going to come in with a big floral cluster from the cardstock stickers. I don't glue it on quite yet, but I do add some adhesive foam because I want to almost turn this flower cluster into a pocket. And that's where I'm going to tuck in my photo and a little journaling tag. So I'm attaching the thread spool to my base. And next I'm going to come in with some foam. It's just cheap kids craft foam from Walmart. You could also use foam dots, like sticky dots. Anything to give it a little dimension and turn it into almost a kind of pocket. So I'm going to attach that there. And I think in a minute we're going to go back to the pin cushion, which has all of those X's printed on it. And I figured since it already looks stitched, I might as well stitch it. But we're going to get to that later. First we're going to do envelopes. So I'm creasing my edges. I cut this out on my Cricut using just some Cricut Access files. One of them's a shorter envelope, and you'll see that I've stitched around the envelope edges and I've stitched down that pocket that's going to go behind the sewing machine. So now that I've stitched down those edges, I can attach it to my machine, and I think that gives it a nice little base. It'll also make the sewing machine more sturdy since it's got a full square behind it. And I'm just sticking it under my box of washi tape while the glue dries, and I'm going to do that with the envelopes too, because I don't want the folded edges to pop up while the glue is still wet. So I'm going to use my liquid glue there, attach the folds, and then let it dry under my box of washi tape. So here's the pin cushion, and I'm poking holes on all of these X's. We're going to stitch through every single one of them with coordinating threads, and there it is. I think it turned out so cute. It makes it look more like fabric. And now we're going to go backwards in time. You'll see on the right there that I haven't actually finished stitching it yet. But we're going to attach the envelopes to the bases. And I don't show the entire embellishment process because this video would have been forever long. And so pretty soon here we're going to go to a flip through of the finished album. Just going to finish attaching those envelopes to the bases, and then we'll do a final flip through.
Okay, here we are with the finished mini album. I think it's so cute. I love that there's still lots of room in my box to add more pages. I've definitely got more quilts to scrap that I want to take pictures of and remember, so I'm glad I have extra room in here to add those in. This is just my cover or title page. It says "So much fun," and I love the mix of the white and gold letters. And I have those hand stitching details along the sides. This next page uses a 3x4 cut apart sheet. It says "You can't buy happiness, but you can buy fabric," and that's pretty close, which is just too funny. I love it. And I stitched along the top here so that I can flip it up. And on the inside, I've got a little bit of journaling, the name of the quilt, and look at the shimmer on those gold letters, and a picture of this lemon quilt with, of course, a lemon sticker, which is just perfect. The next page is a decorative page. It's a stitched pin cushion. And look at those hand stitching details. Oh, I love it. And I might add a picture to this later, but at least for now, I'm content with it just being a little decorative insert. So, next up I have an envelope. It says "Summer Haze," which is the name of the quilt. So I've got my picture of the quilt, and I pull out a journaling card. And they both tuck inside, and I love the scissors on the inside of this envelope. I think it's really cute. Squeeze that back in there. Next up is this teeny tiny cut file. It's a sewing machine. I added some buttons and a thread sticker to make it a little more three-dimensional and just add some of those fun details. And I stitched down both sides to make a pocket. Holds the picture, and I've got a date sticker on there as well. Next up is this spool of thread. And the picture is permanently attached, but the tag is just tucked in there with the name of the quilt and the date that I made it. And the last page is another envelope. And I've got 2 pictures in here, or 3 pictures in here actually, now that I think about it. So let's pull all those out. So these are each double-sided. This one has journaling and a photo. And here's the last photo, and I still need to print out a picture of me and the friend that received this quilt. I like to have pictures of the quilts that I gift to people of, you know, me with whoever received it. And so I still need to print out that picture, but that is the finished mini album. And like I said, I have lots of space to add more pictures. If you'd like an update on this mini, once I make more pages and add more quilt photos, leave a comment and I will add updates in just short little videos if you're interested in that. So thank you for watching and stay scrappy.